Welcome back. There are certain countries in the world that are known for coding. These countries just produce superb coders. Romania is one of them. And you might be surprised to hear that a lot of the coding in the world for the last decade was done in India. So this is just a little aside here, a point of interest. I'm hoping maybe it instills a bit of pride. If I type Indian coding or coder in Google, I get a lot of interesting articles there about Indian programmers. And there is this interesting website here called Quora. And if you want to see all the forums in there, all the entries in that forum, instead of clicking on them one by one, you can go to More Results from Quora. If I click on that, you will find an interesting discussions here. Why are Indians so good at programming? This person has a different opinion. Why are Indians not so good at programming? US versus Indian programmers versus Chinese programmers. So that is something you might want to look into. India has become a very important country when it comes to outsourcing code. So India is doing a lot of the world's coding now. All right, so let's continue. We are on section 9 of chapter 2, and we're going to take a look at the dotted notation when using methods. So let me copy and paste the example we have here into Notepad and look at it more closely. Okay, so we have a variable. We're setting it to the following string value. And we can carry out the following functions or methods on that string. So we can look at the length. Okay, so there are 4 characters in that string, or we can convert it to uppercase variables. Now, what is the difference? We notice there's the dot notation, or you can simply put the string or variable inside the parentheses or brackets. The difference is upper, okay, or a method with a dot and some method after it. This is used only on strings, okay? So I cannot do something like this. I can't put the number 56 there because what precedes it is not a string data type. I have to put some kind of string in there. You know, there's a string, or I could put a variable that is holding that string. In the case we're using here, we have a variable called lion. However, if we use this this syntax here, this can be used not just on strings, but it can be used on other variable types like numbers or dates, and we're going to see that very soon. So let's go to our assignment here, our practice. So on line 3, we want to call the length function with the argument ministry. Now, argument just means the data that we're putting in there. Okay, you can think of an argument as specifying a variable. So when you have a variable, the value can vary, but when you have an argument, that value is set. And in this case, the value is set to ministry, so we call that the argument of the method or the argument of the function. So let's go ahead, put in the length method or function in there, and we will put in ministry, a variable. And in the second line, or on the 4th line, what we want to do this time is we want to use the dot upper method. Okay, so we'll type ministry, and we'll type the method, which is upper. So we're going to convert it to uppercase. However, we need to verify that it's being applied to a string. So whenever you use a dot method, it should be on a string, and indeed that is a string. So let's go ahead and run this, and we see the length is 27. There are 27 characters in our variable string, and converted to uppercase letters, you can see what it is on that line. So let's go to the next exercise. Printing strings. So this is something we've done before. It's a review of a previous of chapter 1 that we did previously last week. But I think here we're just getting some terminology. So this place where we're typing right now, that's called the editor or the Python editor. So where you're typing or editing, that's an editor. And the place where you see the results, that's called a console. I sometimes call it a results window. So what we want to do is we want to tell Python to print the following string, and we want to do it on line 4. So read carefully. If it doesn't accept the results, let me put it on line 3 here to show you the kind of error you might get. So print Monty Python. Okay, and when we run that, oh, it does accept it even though we put it on the wrong line. That's good, we got lucky, but if it's not going forward, if it's not allowing you to go to next, read the instructions carefully. Here's another thing that we might do wrong. Let me type Monty with a lowercase m and run that, and well, it accepted that as well. So it's pretty forgiving in this specific example, but if it's not going forward, if it's not enabling the next button, read the instructions line by line, word by word, and you'll probably figure out what the problem is. So let's go to next. Okay, so printing variables. So we have a variable here called the machine go. So I'm going to, let me see if I can double click that, do a copy, and we're going to put that on line 5. So let's paste that in, and that is going to be set to ping. So let's do a copy of ping, and of course that's a string, so you start with a quotes. We put that in there, and I see it didn't put the exclamation mark, so I'm going to manually put in that exclamation mark. And then on line 6, we want to print the variable. Okay, so let's go ahead and print. I'm going to copy and paste the variable in. Right click, copy, oops, Control C on the keyboard, that's another way of doing it. And we paste that in. So we set a string value to a variable. We're going to print it, and we'll see it in the right window or the console window. And there it is. Let's click next. Now, concatenation. This is something we looked at last week, how to glue together strings. Okay, so let's go straight to the example here. So we want to glue together, okay, the following: spam and eggs, those 3 things on line 3, okay? So it's going to be very similar to the example we have here. Now first I'm going to do it the wrong way. So let's copy those words, those 3 words, spam and an eggs, and I'm going to do it the wrong way so you can see the result. Do a copy. Okay, so we want to print it as concatenated text. So print, so that's a string. That's a string. And that's another string. And to glue it all together, well, the glue operation is the plus sign, and we call that concatenation. And like I said, I'm doing it the wrong way now, and most of you can probably see why it's wrong. So I'm going to paste that in, nevertheless. And where do we paste that in? We paste that into line 3, okay? And look in the results window, And we can see in the console those three words were crammed together. There are no spaces, so what we have to do instead is we have to put a space after M, so it's not crunched together with the word and a space after D, so it's not crunched together with the word egg. So let's copy and paste that in, and I'm pretty sure we'll have a success this time. We click run, spam and eggs. Okay, so this time it worked. And then conversion, explicit conversion. So you can see here what we're doing. Let's copy that and try to interpret what's going on here. Okay, so we're going to print something to the console. We're going to print the following text, I have, and then a space, and then string 2, and then coconuts. So I have 2 coconuts. Why can't I just do it like this? Well, Python gets confused if you do that, because when you have a plus sign, when you're using a plus sign, that means different things with different data types. If you use it with a number, you're doing a mathematical operation. You're doing plus. If you use it with a string data type, that's concatenation. That's gluing text together. So remember that. The plus sign means different things with different data types. So we need to enclose that in string like follows. So let's go ahead and try what they're doing here. So on this line, we want to convert the number 3.14 to a string and concatenate it to that text. So let's go ahead and run it, and we get an error message because you have a number and a string with a plus sign. So Python is confused. It doesn't know what you want to do. So let's convert that first to a string by enclosing that number in there inside the method. That's going to be turned into a string, and then we can successfully concatenate. And let's